So about a week ago, SAG-AFTRA made an offer to the AMPTP. If you don't know what the AMPTP is, it's the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. They're the group of Hollywood studios that have merged together into a single bargaining unit against SAG-AFTRA. And they have been stonewalling SAG for, months at this point. And now that they're back at the table, SAG made an offer on Saturday, and the AMPTP has yet to respond. And I've been checking every day. I've been checking their official Twitter just to see new updates. And as far as I can tell, this is the latest update that we have. And this was posted. Actually, wait, is that the latest one? Let me double check. No, this is more recent. Okay, so we've got this a notification from them on November 1st, which said the negotiating committee met today to discuss and finalize our response to the AMPTP AI counterproposal, which we received yesterday. The negotiators then met with AMPTP representatives for more than 3 hours this afternoon and evening to present and review our revised proposal. We continue to await the AMPTP's response to our comprehensive counterproposal package, which we gave them on Saturday, addressing outstanding issues. Please know that your presence on the picket lines and support on social media remain a source of inspiration and solidarity and gratitude. Your TV and Theatrical Negotiating Committee. So it sounds like they are having a separate negotiation session specifically regarding AI, but AMPTP has not yet, as far as I can tell. I mean, something could change any time now because it's the end of the work week on a Friday, and typically SAG-AFTRA releases these. Well, you can see this one was released at like 8 p.m. So we might see something come out in the next couple hours. Kind of hard to say, but it really does seem like AMPTP is stonewalling here. The negotiating committee was on standby today, awaiting response from the AMPTP on both the AI counter and the comprehensive counter proposal. Our team looks forward to continuing bargaining with the companies tomorrow. So it's a lot of wait and see, but even though the AMPTP has not made any public announcements yet, there are people behind the scenes who are talking to people, and we do have some reporters who are saying certain things. And why don't we take a look and see what Variety has to say? Now, as I always state in these stories, Variety, as well as Deadline and The Hollywood Reporter, they're the prominent industry rags for the entertainment industry, but they are all owned by the same parent company, Penske Media. And Penske Media also owns Dick Clark Productions, which is a member of the AMPTP. So these companies, these industry rags, have a financial interest in seeing the AMPTP come out on top. So you always need to take that with a grain of salt whenever you're reading anything that they put out about the strikes. Now, I still use them for a lot of strike information because they're not like explicitly always lying about things, but it could be using anonymous sources, we don't know who, and it could be like pointing out small issues and exaggerating it out into an entire story, stuff like that. So I think there's still value to be found in reading these magazines, but always keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and see what they have to say. Hollywood studios sets to deliver offer they hope will end SAG-AFTRA strike. Hollywood's major studios are preparing to make an offer to SAG-AFTRA on Friday that they hope will end the 113-day actors' strike. The Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers had previously warned the actors' union that if a deal could not be reached by the end of this week, the networks would have to cancel certain TV shows and there would be further delays in 2024 summer theatrical releases. Yes, and I think I did coverage on this, where basically there was like a rumor that if they don't get a deal by the end of October, or I guess this is the weekend as we're going in from the end of October, that basically nothing would go back into production until the new year. Because traditionally in Hollywood, the studios kind of take a break from Thanksgiving to Christmas. They basically just go on an extended Christmas break, holiday season break. But that's in a normal time when you haven't had the entire industry on strike for half a year. So that's a threat, but I think it's a bit of an empty one because they want to get things back on track. The talks could go well into the weekend, especially if the two sides see that a tentative agreement is within reach. The agreements with the Directors Guild of America and the Writers Guild of America were finalized on a Saturday in June and a Sunday in September, respectively. In an Instagram message on Friday, Union President Fran Drescher said she hoped the studio's response would seal the deal. Let's hope the AMPTP CEOs resurface with a seal the deal counter, she wrote. So far, the AMPTP has not communicated to the union that its counter will be a last, best, and final offer. That is a term of art in labor negotiations, which is meant to indicate that the employer will make no further concessions of any significance. Now, I should point out that when the AMPTP issued its last, best, and final offer, air quotes, to the WGA, a couple days later, the WGA announced that the deal that they got was everything they were asking for. So don't believe them when they say it's the last, best, and final offer. That is a negotiating tactic. But given that a SAG-AFTRA is already on strike, the union could simply refuse to accept it and remain on strike. And as I covered previously, there's a huge open letter signed by thousands and thousands of SAG-AFTRA members who are saying, don't take a poor deal, we will stay on strike until we get what we want. SAG-AFTRA has said that it made a counter-offer last Saturday and has been waiting since then for a response. The union also gave a 3-hour presentation on Wednesday on its latest proposals on artificial intelligence. The union has been holding out for certain items, including on AI that it considers to be existential for actors. The studios have grumbled that the actors are conjuring up more and more AI scenarios and are not progressing toward an agreement. The negotiation has also featured more than a dozen other items which are the subject of the Saturday counter from SAG-AFTRA. And that's all we've got from there. But we've got... yeah, here we go. This is a tweet from Matthew Baloney, who is a founding partner at Puck News, which is another entertainment industry thing, which I feel like at some point I need to subscribe because all of their stuff is paywalled, but they do have quite a lot of good information. So I think I might like actually just subscribe to them at some point. So he's saying... best and last offer going to SAG-AFTRA today. Yes, that's a studio tactic, but sounds like if there's no deal today or this weekend, might not be talks next week. So what this entertainment journalist is saying is that it sounds like AMPTP is going to be doing the best and last offer tactic. Like I said, it doesn't mean anything. But I saw Jerry Ryan, who played 7 of 9 on Star Trek Voyager and Star Trek Picard, and who has been one of like the main leading actor presence at picket lines. Like she's just been on the line every single day since the strike started. She's been really consistent out there. She had some stuff to say. Now, it's split up over 3 separate tweets because she's a bit of a boomer and doesn't know how to thread on Twitter, but that's okay. We can forgive her. She played a Borg. She's not a Borg. He's like, I don't think enough people understand that our NegCom gave our full proposal to the studios on Saturday, 6 days ago, still waiting for them to come back to the table. They are playing by their typical playbook. Delay and delay and delay, then they'll come back claiming that the deal must be made in 24, 48, whatever hours or the deal is off. Fuck that. Fuck them for doing exactly what they said they would, dragging it out through the fall to try to starve us out. Hold strong, flood the picket lines as long as it takes. Yeah, that was something that had leaked several months ago, is that the plan was to starve them out until the end of October so that people start losing their homes. And that's when they would start to negotiate. I do remember Ron Perlman hearing that, issued a little bit of a coded threat saying, we know where the fuck you live. So right now, it's kind of a game of wait and see. But since it seems like AI is a particular sticking point, I wanted to dig into that. I saw a couple more articles on the subject that I thought would be interesting to cover here. As we know, or as you may not know, Joe Biden is issuing an executive order on having some legislation, some regulation on AI to make sure there's worker protections involved. And obviously, since AI has been such a big sticking point both in the WGA strike and in the SAG strike, you know, it's very relevant to this whole thing. But the Motion Picture Association sees no need for new AI copyright legislation or special rules, warns of inflexible guidelines. Despite the DC push to establish guardrails around artificial intelligence, major studios are warning against inflexible rules when it comes to copyright, asserting that existing law is sufficient to deal with the emerging AI technology. Oh yeah, no, totally. New technologies coming out, we don't need to update our laws for them. They'll just adapt, you know. That's That's why we didn't need the DMCA to address the ways that the internet was changing how copyright law was, in effect. Like, come on, that's absurd. You just don't want the regulations so that you can run roughshod over everyone else's rights. The studio's positions on a host of issues regarding AI were outlined in a Motion Picture Association filing with the U.S. Copyright Office. AI also said to be a major point of contention in talks between SAG-AFTRA and the AMPTP. In the filing, the MPA's legal team, including Karen Temple, Benjamin Scheffner, and Tarika Carrington, wrote that the studio members' overarching views, based on the current state, is that while AI technologies raise a host of novel questions, those questions implicate well-established copyright law doctrines and principles. At present, there is no reason to conclude that these existing doctrines and principles will be inadequate to provide courts and the Copyright Office with the tools they need to answer AI-related questions as and when they arise. They added, at the current time, however, there is no need for legislation or special rules to apply copyright law in the context of AI. Developments in AI, like preceding technological advancements, have a great potential to enhance, not replace, human creativity, they wrote. I'm sorry, that's simply just... Well, okay. If we're talking specifically creativity, it's going to replace jobs. It's not going to be more creative, but it is going to push people out of work for a more soulless product. So yeah, that's anytime there's a technological advance, there's always the risk of who's controlling the technology and what impact does that have on existing industries. There used to be a much larger, say, horseshoe industry back when horses were the primary mode of travel, and now, well, you don't see a lot of blacksmiths making horseshoes on a day-to-day basis. So technologies do in fact change societies, and if you make sure that that technology is in the hands of the ruling class and they get to decide what happens with it, they get to decide who they're paying and who they're not paying because of this new technology, of course the humans who are doing the work are going to be impacted by it. MPA's members further believe these developments can and should coexist with a copyright system that incentivizes the creation of original expression and protects the rights of copyright owners. So I am also kind of conflicted about copyright. I generally don't think copyright is the best thing, but I also think that getting rid of it entirely would screw over the little guy completely. Obviously, studios use copyright law to try and gain copyright over other people's works. You get a lot of things that they try to convert to a work for hire, so they have all control over it, so people don't own the things that they made themselves. And they've also, Disney is famous for trying to get copyright extensions so that Mickey Mouse never falls into public domain, which looks like is just about to happen because Steamboat Willie enters the public domain next year unless the Republicans, in some act of, sudden generosity toward Disney, who they think is a woke corporation, if they pass something in the next couple months to extend copyright again. I don't think that's happening, so they're getting screwed over there. But the point is, extending copyright protections for so long after the death of the author, that doesn't actually help the creatives themselves. I think, what is it, lifetime plus 70 years is the current state, or could be even further than that. Actually, let me look that up. Okay, yeah. As a general rule for works created after January 1st, 1978, copyright protection lasts for the life of the author plus an additional 70 years. So yeah, that doesn't actually help the creative, because if you're dead and then it lasts for another lifetime beyond that, the only people that actually helps are corporations who can maintain the rights like that and maintain big popular properties that they own the copyright for in perpetuity, effectively. So, Transgirl Jade says, I thought it was lifetime plus 75 years. It may be, well, also, and the fact that the thing that I looked up said for works created after January 1st, 1978. So there may be different periods where certain works are granted more or less. I don't know all of that in particular. But yeah, I think having protections over individual creators' works is important, particularly in this predatory capitalist system that we live in. But also, those copyright protections end up helping predatory corporations. So it's a complicated situation. There's no easy solution. The real solution is to abolish capitalism. abolish the commodity form and let creatives just be able to create things without needing to tie it to their income. But, you know, that requires a even more significant restructuring of society. So for now, copyright is kind of a necessary evil. President Joe Biden issued an executive order on Monday to address concerns about AI, including a provision to establish standards for watermarking of AI-generated content, a move intended to identify so-called deepfakes. Yeah, I think mandatory watermarks might actually be a good idea, particularly if you are modifying, if you're like generating, you know, what appears to be real footage of people. I think that would probably be a really good move, and not something just in the corner, but something overlaid on the video itself, like how Getty Images watermarks cover the entire image, stuff like that. That's probably a good idea. The executive order, however, did not address copyright, and other action will be left to Congress. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has been working on AI legislation, and other lawmakers have proposed a draft bill for the unauthorized use of a performer's digital likeness. This would be good. There already is disagreement over details. In its 77-page filing, the MPA took issue with Copyright Office's position on the protection of content that contains AI-generated material. Earlier this year, the office issued guidance on AI, noting that only material that is created by humans can be protected by copyright. The guidance said that copyright applicants had a duty to disclose the inclusion of AI-generated content in a work submitted for registration and to provide a brief explanation of the human author's contributions to the work. The Copyright Office also is in the midst of gathering public comment on its approach to AI. In the filing, the MPA's team wrote that the Copyright Office has not yet sufficiently distinguished between generative AI, where the AI model itself creates the expressive material, e.g. Midjourney on the one hand, and the use of routine post-production AI tools that could fall under the office's broad definition, e.g. a human post-production creator using AI as a tool to remove mud from a performer's clothing in successive frames for a motion picture on the other. That does seem like something to clarify, which seems odd considering that the MPA is saying that we actually don't need to update regulations or copyright law to account for AI. It seems odd that they would say, well, hang on, this doesn't, we found something where it doesn't take into account. And like, yeah, there are a lot of AI tools that are not generative, that take existing things and I mean, like a lot of face tuning stuff kind of is in that area, you know? And I think having that distinction would be important. For instance, Secret Invasion, the Marvel Disney Plus show. It was a bad show, horrible show. Its intro had AI art, like the title sequence was AI art, and I actually like did a segment on it in which I kind of defended what they were doing with it, because it was clear it had not just been completely AI generated, that there was like clear like 3D modeling going on, and that they kind of just did like an AI pass over like pre-rendered environments to give it that AI generative feel, which when you consider that the vibe of Secret Invasion was there are people being replaced by aliens, and it's kind of hard to tell who to trust, who's real or not. Having that kind of, you know, the AI thing where, with AI video, where you have a lot of like shifting between frames to kind of simulate the scrolls changing shape and stuff like that. I kind of defended what they were going for using that. They were like deliberately going for an AI generated feel without it being just completely AI generated. There was clear art direction going on there. So things like that. They warned that the Copyright Office may be moving toward an inflexible rule that does not properly recognize the extent to which human creativity can be present in a work generated with the use of AI tools. So I know Shadiversity was talking about how he was getting better at making AI art, which means he was getting better at writing prompts, while the AI tools that he was using were also being improved upon. He didn't actually do anything. He just wrote, you know, Supergirl with big boobs and with more descriptors so that he could get art that he liked better. So it really depends. on what they mean by the extent to which human creativity can be present in a work. Other issues also are addressed in the MPA's filing, including the use of copyrighted material in AI training models. A number of authors, including John Grisham and George R. R. Martin, have sued OpenAI and Meta over the use of their works in training models for their AI systems. The MPA argues that the appropriate way to deal with potential cases of infringement is via a court's determination of whether it is a fair use. That is the standard by which courts weigh whether the unauthorized use of a copyrighted work is legal. So, yeah, I think it's kind of a complicated situation there. Obviously, we're not talking about an AI like, say, the sci-fi conception where it's just a robotic person. We are talking about neural net tools that analyze stuff. Like, if you're an author and you read the entire collected works of George R. R. Martin and you write a book that is very derivative of Game of Thrones, that's not plagiarism. You are just heavily inspired by George R. R. Martin and are writing stuff inspired by him. So long as you aren't, directly stealing his characters and place settings and stuff like that, that's totally fine to do. It might not be the best work ever to be put out, but that's legitimate. But I don't think you can say the same thing for feeding it to a tool that then spits out stuff that was just trained on all of George R. R. Martin's collective work. Like that, I don't think that's the same thing. As such, courts weigh a series of factors determining whether a use is fair. That includes the purpose and character of the use, the nature of the copyrighted work, the amount of the copyrighted work used, and the effect on the market for the copyrighted work. The MPA noted that the Supreme Court has determined that the four factors have to be considered together and that the task is not to be simplified with bright-line rules. The MPA's team wrote that the relevant use will vary both with the stage of training, scope of material used, and ultimate use of the outputs. A lot of this is getting more into the legalese here. My brain's starting to turn into soup reading this. But anyway, the MPA, they have objections to it all, and I'm not going to read the rest of this, but there was another story kind of related to this that I wanted to cover. And this will kind of wrap up the SAG-AFTRA strike section of it. So obviously, this stuff isn't directly the strike, but since the strike is a lot about AI, I figured we would talk about the concerns. And here we go. Nicolas Cage calls AI inhumane and a nightmare, says CGI changed his Superman Flash cameo. Spider fight was not what I did on set. Nicolas Cage has shared his thoughts on the use of AI in films, as well as his feelings about the final cut of his cameo as Superman in Warner Bros.' The Flash. In a recent interview with Yahoo Entertainment, Cage expressed his personal distaste for the technology, saying, "AI is a nightmare to me. It's inhumane. You can't get more inhumane than artificial intelligence." While AI did not play a part in Cage's surprise cameo as Superman in The Flash, the final scene was different from what he shot for the 2023 superhero movie, according to the actor. So even though his concern here, it wasn't something done with AI, I think the concerns about what AI can do in simulating an actor and replacing their performance, I think this all applies here. So what I was supposed to do was literally just be standing in an alternate dimension, if you will, and witnessing the destruction of the universe, Cage explained. Kal-El was bearing witness to the end of a universe, and you can imagine with that short amount of time that I had, what that would mean in terms of what I can convey. I had no dialogue, so I had to convey with my eyes the emotion. So that's what I did. I was on set for maybe 3 hours. Now, this actually surprised me. I genuinely didn't think they actually had Nick Cage on set because he is de-aged so that he looks like he did in the 90s. I just assumed that they had done a digital scan of him and created a CGI younger version of him and used that because that is effectively what it looks like. And it's probably still what they did, but like they probably mocapped his face, his facial expressions for that. And this is kind of gross that they can have him give a performance for a very specific thing and then just take it and completely replace every single aspect of it. It's one of the big problems that I've got with Marvel's whole ethos of fix it in post, in that you end up with a very bland result. Because if an actor is told to give a performance for some specific thing and then you change everything about it so that the performance they're giving doesn't even reflect the scene that they're doing, it loses so much of its intentionality. And it's something that it's been an issue for a while, and I kind of blame George Lucas for starting it, because I remember seeing some behind the scenes for The Phantom Menace, where Lucas would actually take different performances from different actors and splice them all into a single take. And when you're doing that, if you've got multiple actors who are actually acting from the different scenes at the same time, you're missing a ton of the nuance. You're not going to get the actors authentically reacting to each other. Yeah, the idea that you can just take an actor's performance and completely repurpose it for something else. Speaking as somebody who has been an actor myself, you lose some essence in that. You lose some of its soul. Anyway, in The Flash, Cage's Man of Steel is seen battling a giant spider as the multiverse begins to collapse, a reference to Tim Burton's axed Superman Lives movie, which the actor was set to star in as the titular superhero. When I went to the picture, it was me fighting a giant spider, Cage said. I did not do that. That was not what I did. I don't think it was created by AI. I know Tim Burton is upset about AI as I am. It was CGI, okay, so that they could de-age me, and I'm fighting a spider. I didn't do any of that, so I don't know what happened there. Back in September, Burton criticized AI recreations of Disney characters in his trademark style in an interview with The Independent, saying, "I can't describe the feeling it gives you. It reminded me of when other cultures say, don't take my picture because it is taking away your soul. What it does is it sucks something from you," he continues. "It takes something from your soul or psyche that is very disturbing, especially if it has to do with you. It's like a robot taking your humanity, your soul." Burton later weighed in on Cage's cameo as Superman in The Flash, saying, "But also it goes into another AI thing, and this is why I think I'm over it with the studio. They can take what you did, Batman or whatever, and culturally misappropriate it, or whatever you want to call it. Even though you're a slave of Disney or Warner Brothers, they can do whatever they want. So in my latter years of life, I'm in quiet revolt against all this." Tyler Jones says it's like chopping up audio where you can clearly see the inflection is off. Yeah, you can tell when something has been manipulated to be used for something that it wasn't intended for. And if you make something so generic that it can be used for anything, there's no real soul to it there. Like so many Marvel properties, a lot of the acting and a lot of the scene composition is so bland because of the way that they film it, where they just shoot everything on green screen and they don't even know what set they're going to be on at that point, and they just put everything together in post. Everything is flatly lit because if you don't know what the scene is going to be, you can't intentionally light the scene to reflect where they're going to be. There's a lot of the ways that movies are made now where everything is so genericized it loses its soul. But anyway, this is one of the things that actors are fighting for. And now for the actors, the big concern is the AI replacing them completely out of a job. But there's also, I think, creative and ethical concerns as well.
Hey, thanks for watching. I'm trying to get my channel monetized, so your view means a lot. Don't forget to toss me a like, and subscribe, and ring the bell. I stream Mondays and Fridays at 5 p.m. and Sundays at 2 p.m., so catch me live and join in on the convo. You can find all my socials in the description below, and thank you to all my patrons with a very special shout out to my Whale Shark tier patron Ryan D, and my Anemone Friends tier patron Piftle Cakes. Your support means the world. Catch you next time.